Happy Monday, July 29th, 2024. Weather is starting to weather again. Okay, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about out there. We've had a couple of dry periods over the past couple of months. We've had, some really intense periods as well. But I think we're going to get back on a run here where you're going to get tired of seeing me as we're dealing with severe weather and also some pretty significant stuff in the tropics in the near future. To start us off, though, I do want to start here in the mainland talking about the pattern over the next couple of days. Look at this big swirling system over here moving its way up into New England, allowing for some much cooler air to cycle in on the backside. And notice how it's smushing up against a pretty strong area of warm air that's trying to fight against it. Okay, anytime you see something like this time of year, all along that boundary between the cool and the warm air, you get storms. And in this situation, we're going to get a conveyor belt of strong storms that kind of move down this corridor right here over the next several days. We're also going to see plenty of moisture and cool air just kind of hanging out over here in the northeast as well. And then what's going to happen is we've got a big ridge trying to form over here in the west, allowing for things to get really warm. That's going to allow for this warm, moist Gulf of Mexico moisture to come up into the central plains and then kind of loft itself into that conveyor belt. And it's just a never-ending cycle. Okay, so get ready for the storms over here. And this starts today. Okay, we've got two different slight risks of severe weather. The main threat being wind and hail in that one up there in North Dakota and South Dakota. The main threat also being wind and hail in Kentucky, but there's a little bit more of a tornado threat in Kentucky and Indiana as well. You can see here that the significant hatched risk for significant winds greater than maybe 75 miles per hour. That's going to be kind of isolated up there towards Bismarck, and you can see it in the hatched area there. The possibility of seeing damaging hail is a little bit more widespread here. You can see that there is an elevated risk in Kentucky and Indiana, but that hatched significant zone is reserved for, places around South Dakota over there. But look at this. The tornado threat is most focused right there in Indiana, right on the border of Kentucky near Louisville, and then of course a little bit of Illinois as well, that 5% zone there. So we are not going to be surprised at all if we see a couple of tornado warnings this afternoon. Severe weather continues tomorrow with another slight risk in Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri, and a huge marginal risk that goes from Canada all the way down to Myrtle Beach. And of course, it doesn't stop there. Day 3, we've already got a slight risk of severe weather as well in a lot of the same areas. This one looks like it could actually maybe be an enhanced risk by the time we get to day 1. So things are really heating up as far as severe weather goes. Here's what the radar could look like as we go in the future. This is a simulation brought to us by the HRRR model. We're kind of focused in on the Ohio River Valley here because that's where we've got that best chance of tornadoes today. We'll zoom out right here in a second and show you the northern plains as well. But notice how around 8 p.m. Eastern, that's when things really start to light up with these new cells that are going to be forming here in Indiana over towards Kentucky. It's at this point where they're going to have the best chance of potentially producing a tornado or two. Also, very large hail is going to be possible with this. But very quickly, especially after we pass the 10 to 11 p.m. Eastern time frame, once we get to around 4Z, we are going to see this turn into a very large damaging wind system. Okay, this is going to have the potential to be a widespread damaging wind maker from Indiana all the way down through maybe even central Kentucky, as this is going to be a continued threat all the way through potentially 2, 3, 4 a.m. I think at 4 a.m. we'll still be seeing severe thunderstorm warnings way down here in southeastern Kentucky, moving into northeastern portions of Tennessee. But the tornado threat is mostly going to be reserved for the period of time between like 6 and 10 p.m. and then it's all wind and rain from there. Zooming out a little bit to show you these storms up here in the north central U.S. as well. These are going to start popping up a little bit earlier, less of a tornado threat, much more of a hail and wind threat with these. Get ready in Nebraska, South Dakota, and North Dakota for those initial storms, but even those are going to turn mostly wind oriented by the time we get into the midnight hour. Okay, so got a brief period for large hail and tornadoes, but mostly both of these storm systems are going to be big time wind makers, and we're going to see the re-sparking of those storms trying to happen once again as we go into the heating of the day tomorrow. Now, that's not all we have to talk about as far as severe weather goes and, what's happening over on the mainland. We're going to touch on some more of that right here in a minute. But first, I do want to share with you guys that we just got an update in from the National Hurricane Center talking about this disturbance in the Atlantic Ocean. It now has a 50% chance of turning into a named system or a tropical depression within the next 7 days. Okay, so 50%, much higher than the last time we talked to each other. It was like 10%. This is looking getting more and more likely to become maybe a tropical storm as it approaches the Leeward Islands and then eventually goes up towards the Bahamas and maybe even up towards the lower 48. But before we go any deeper into that, thankfully we have a sponsor today, so let's shout them out. Delete Me, your personal data is yours again. Did you know that there are companies called data brokers, big companies, big buildings full of people, and their job is just to steal your information, your name, your address, your phone number, you name it. It's out there and people are collecting it from you right now and they're selling it to people without your permission. This ain't just annoying, it can be dangerous. Identity theft, phishing scams, and even stalking, it all comes from this sort of thing. These are the real risks associated with your information being so easily available. That's why I personally use and trust today's sponsor, Delete Me. It's an incredible service that removes your personal information from hundreds of data broker websites. Delete Me isn't just a one-time thing either. They've got experts that are going to keep an eye on your information and continuously remove it as it shows up in new places as time goes on. I cannot stress enough how important it is to take control of your online privacy. This is a solution that I really do believe in. Delete Me is awesome. I think that you should try it. All you got to do is go to joindeleteme.com/Ryan Hall. There's a link in the top of the description and you're going to want to use the code Ryan Hall while you're over there. And that's going to get you in on 20% off all US consumer plans. Don't wait to protect your privacy. Start safeguarding your data today. Here's what the European model has to say about that. There's our wave. Okay, keep your eye on it. July 31st, 5 p.m. Still nothing crazy, but it's going to be entering in a pretty favorable area where the sea surface temperatures are really high. We've got a lot of ocean heat content. There's not going to be a terrible amount of wind shear. So something is going to try to develop here, I think, as it approaches the Bahamas. There's a million different paths that it could take from here. I think that it's definitely going to make it to right here, but does it go this way? Does it go this way? Does it recurve out this way? That's still up in the air. We really don't know what's going to happen there yet, and that's why you should, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to keep you updated here. As of right now, though, it could go any of those directions. The Euro specifically shows it coming right up close to Florida, continuing to strengthen, but still not showing a major hurricane or anything here. Honestly, this would be like maybe a tropical storm at this point, and then it continues to ride up the coastline, gets a little bit stronger before maybe making landfall in the outer banks of North Carolina here way back on Monday, August 5th. Okay, so this is way out in La La Land. This is likely not going to be the correct solution, all right? So don't, put too much stock into what we're seeing here, but this is one model showing a potential tropical storm or maybe even a hurricane coming, uncomfortably close to the mainland US here. So we got to pay attention to it. We've got to make sure that we're not disregarding it. I will let you know if things start looking a little bit more serious than this. Right now, I would say, hey, let's just keep an eye on it. Tomorrow, it may not even be there. Another thing that you could very clearly see on that map was all of the troughs and ridges moving through the United States. Really, we're not going to see a lot of movement with the amplitude of those troughs. We're going to see pretty stationary stuff here as a huge ridge continues to dominate the west and the central U.S. We're going to continue to see those storm systems move down the Great Lakes region, down into the Ohio Valley and southeast, causing little pockets of cool air. But for the most part, the vast majority of us are going to be much above average, experiencing somewhat of a heat wave, especially out west, all the way through Thursday, August 1st at least. Okay, and I think it's actually going to get a little bit more intense than that the farther we go into August. And it's not just me that's saying that, okay? Climate Prediction Center. Hey, literally everybody in the United States, except for maybe a couple of counties in the extreme southern tip of Texas there, is expected to be much above average, okay? With an emphasis on Idaho and Utah and Oregon, all right? You guys are going to be blistering hot over there. It's going to feel like a heat wave, so get ready. This is the kind of stuff that people have heat strokes with. This is not going to help the wildfire situation. So just make sure you're prepared. At least up to 10 days from now, things are going to be oppressively hot. We're going to be warmer than average, but not quite as, oppressive, I guess, the farther east you go. And in fact, this little cutout right here, maybe some not so hot temperatures are only due to the fact that we're going to have recurring storm systems kind of cooling things off every once in a while. And those recurring storm systems are also going to lead to a lot of rainfall. A lot of that's going to be kind of focused on the Appalachian Mountain region. Okay, so get ready for flash flooding in places like eastern Kentucky, down here where I live. Also, portions of West Virginia up into western portions of Pennsylvania. This is the exact kind of storm system, storm pattern, I guess, that typically causes all of our flooding problems. So if you live in a flood-prone area, get ready. It's on the way. We're also going to see quite a bit of rain down here in southwestern Florida as well. No rain, though, in a lot of the south central plains and over here towards California. And that's pretty much all the weather talk I have for you today. Things are getting busy out there, so you're going to see more of me. We'll have another update either tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. There's also a very slight chance that at some point we're going to need to go live for one of these severe weather events. Obviously, if we get a hurricane, we're going to go live, but we're watching these severe weather systems very closely. We've lowered our threshold a little bit for what it takes for us to go live. If it looks like we're going to be needed, we're going to go live. So turn on notifications. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye. Ooh.